Today we're going to talk about the 5 points that every speech needs. As you write your speech, I want you to make sure that you include these 5 points in your argument. These 5 points are for an argumentative speech or a persuasive speech. Let's go over these 5 points. First is the claim, and it's going to answer the question, what are you trying to prove or persuade your audience of? The second is the convincing evidence. The convincing evidence needs to answer the question, what is your proof of the claim? Next is the warrant, and the warrant provides justification or reasoning for why the evidence supports the claim. It allows your audience to accept your evidence as reason enough to be persuaded of your claim. The next is counter-argument. The counter-argument acknowledges and refutes the opposing views. So it's stating that, yes, I am aware that there are opposing views to this argument, and I'm going to acknowledge them, and I'm going to refute them and tell you why that side is not correct based on my evidence. And then lastly, you have a call to action. A call to action is always in the conclusion of your speech, and it's where you make an explicit appeal for your audience to take a certain action. Okay, so now that we've gone over those 5 points that every speech needs, we're going to watch an example video, and I will be stopping and starting so that I can pinpoint the claim, the convincing evidence, the warrant, the counter-arguments, and the call to action. The following video is the dangers of cell phones. It's a persuasive speech, and this will serve as our example to pinpointing the claim, the warrant, and the evidence.
It's your constant companion. It's in your pocket, in your bag, in your hands, or against your head. You use it at home, in class, at the gym, before you go to sleep at night, and first thing when you wake up in the morning. I'm talking, of course, about your cell phone. According to my class survey, everyone in this room has a cell phone, and all of us use it dozens of times every day. But what if your constant companion is dangerous? What if it's hazardous to your health? Evidence is piling up that long-term use of cell phones can lead to tissue damage, tumors, and even brain cancer. Given that there are well over 4 billion people worldwide using cell phones, we're looking at a problem of potentially staggering magnitude. According to Devra Davis, epidemiologist and author of the 2010 book, Disconnect: The Truth About Cell Phone Radiation, we may be watching an epidemic in slow motion. I never thought much about the possible perils of cell phones before I saw a CBS News report on the subject earlier this year. But doing extensive research for this speech made me realize that cell phones do in fact pose a danger to our health. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to try to persuade you to abandon your constant companion. I still use mine on a regular basis, and I probably always will.
Now listen here, because she is about to state her claim. The claim, as I said before, answers the question, what are you trying to prove or persuade your audience of? Let's listen.
But I do hope to persuade you to make one simple change in the way you use your cell phone. A change that will protect your health and could even make the difference between a long life and premature death.
Excellent. That was very explicit and straight to the point. She stated that she is going to help you make one simple change or persuade you to make one simple change that could save your health. And that is her claim, what she is trying to prove. Let's continue to listen.
But first, let's look more closely at the health risks posed by cell phones.
1 second. I think she's about to state her convincing evidence. The convincing evidence answers the question, what is your proof of your claim? So she's about to prove that cell phones are not good for your health. Let's listen.
Those risks stem from the fact that cell phones emit small amounts of radiation that over time can damage tissue. Every time you use your cell phone, you expose yourself to that radiation. The amount is minuscule in comparison to that given off by X-ray machines, about 1/1 billionth of the intensity. However, Ronald Herbermann of the University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute explains that the problem with cell phone radiation is not how much is emitted at a single time, but how much we are exposed to with repeated use, day after day, year after year. It's this long-term use of cell phones that has led researchers to warn about their danger. In one study, for example, the World Health Organization tracked 10,000 cell phone users over the course of 10 years. As reported in the New York Times on November 13th, 2010, the data in this study indicated.
I rewinded the video just a bit because she's about to give some examples. These examples are her warrants. Again, a warrant provides justification or reasoning as to why your evidence supports your claim. So she's about to tell you why her evidence should give you reason to believe her claim that cell phones are indeed bad for your health. Let's listen to her line of reasoning or her warrant that allows you to accept her evidence and be persuaded of her claim.
In one study, for example, the World Health Organization tracked 10,000 cell phone users over the course of 10 years. As reported in the New York Times on November 13th, 2010, the data in this study indicated that subjects who used a cell phone 10 or more years doubled the risk of developing brain tumors. Other studies have reached the same conclusion. Perhaps most important is a 2007 study in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine that surveyed all the previous research on cell phone use. It found a consistent pattern of increased risk for developing brain tumors among people who used cell phones for more than 10 years. Alan Marks is one of those people. A 58-year-old real estate developer and father of 3. He talked on his cell phone an hour a day for 23 years. 2 years ago, doctors found a golf ball-sized tumor in his brain. There's no question what caused it, he says. It was my cell phone. And Alan Marks isn't the only person to conclude that he's sick because of his cell phone.
We're going to pause here. Did you hear that warrant or that reasoning? She connected the radiation, the evidence toward her radiation, to her example, which was radiation can cause brain tumors. She made that line of reasoning very clear. Radiation causes brain tumors, which hopefully that warrant allows you to accept her claim, which is that cell phones are not good for your health.
Ann Gittleman's 2010 book, Zapped, which deals at length with the health problems of cell phones, catalogs people who developed blinding headaches, dizziness, circulatory problems, nausea, and cancer from the kind of radiation emitted by cell phones. Still not convinced about the potential dangers posed by your constant companion? Take a look then inside the thick manual that comes with your phone. You'll see that all cell phone manufacturers warn against keeping the phone right next to your body. Apple, for example, recommends keeping the iPhone 5/8 of an inch away from your body. Makers of the BlackBerry recommend that you keep their phone a full inch away. Cell phone manufacturers don't publicize.
I'm pausing the video here. She's about to bring up her counter argument just a bit. I think she could have gone a bit further, but here is counter argument.
This information widely, but they clearly recognize that their products are potentially hazardous.
And so we're going to pause there for just a second. Again, the counter argument acknowledges and refutes opposing views. So Other people may argue, well, they make cell phones, so wouldn't the people who make cell phones do their research, so that we wouldn't be put in danger? I trust the cell phone companies, another argument might say. And so this speaker is saying, even the cell phone companies have in their books to leave the phones 1 foot away from you. And she even brings up that no, cell phone companies do not promote this. However, it does not mean that it's not true. So she acknowledges her opposing viewers who might decide to trust in the cell phone companies over the evidence. So again, that was her counter argument.
So, what's the solution? As I said earlier, it's not to stop using cell phones altogether.
All right, here's our call to action. Our call to action is an explicit appeal to take a specific action. So she's about to ask her audience to take a specific action once her speech is over. Let's listen.
I still use mine on a regular basis, and I can't imagine being without it, and I'm sure you can't imagine being without yours. You can, however, take seriously the risks of cell phones and find a way to minimize those risks. Time and again, experts point out that the single most effective way to reduce the risk is not to press your cell phone against your head while using it. Since the phone emits radiation, the closer you put it to your head, the more radiation you expose yourself to. At the very least, you should hold the phone 1/2 an inch to 1 full inch away from your ear. But ideally, you should get in the habit of not putting it up to your head at all. I now use my earbuds almost every time I use my phone. Another option is to use your speakerphone. As with breaking any habit, changing the way you talk on your cell phone may be slightly inconvenient at first, but will soon become second nature. You'll be able to enjoy all the benefits of your constant companion without suffering the fate of Alan Marks. If Marx had known the dangers of prolonged cell phone use, he would have done things a lot differently. I wouldn't have held it to my head, he says. I would have used the headset, I would have used the speakerphone, and I would not have had the problems I had. So, please get in the habit of keeping your cell phone away from your ear when talking, and encourage your friends and family to do the same. Start today with your next phone call and continue every day in the future. We can avoid the slow motion epidemic that doctors and scientists are warning us about, as long as we remember to keep this away from this.
That was a wonderful speech. Again, that was The Dangers of Cell Phones, and it can be found on YouTube. You can listen to it as a whole without my interruptions. Okay, so again, let's review. We just went over the 5 points that every speech needs, every argumentative speech needs, every persuasive speech needs. Those 5 points are the claim, answering the question, what are you trying to prove? The convincing evidence, answering the question, what is your proof of the claim? The next is the warrant, which provides justification for why the evidence supports the claim. Next is the counter-argument, which acknowledges and refutes the opposing view, using evidence to refute the opposing view. And then last is the call to action. Normally it's in the conclusion of the speech, and you make an explicit appeal for the audience to take a specific action at the end of your speech. Thank you so much, and please watch the next video on how to construct a persuasive speech.